What's up, everybody? If you've been following this channel for a while now, then you know I absolutely love talking about anything and everything running and training related. And I've spent a lot of time recently in my videos sharing a lot of my training philosophy. But there's a lot of thoughts that I have running around in my head regarding training and racing and all things in between. So today is going to be the first video in a series of more unstructured videos where I'm basically just giving myself a place to talk about anything that's on my mind running related. And my hope is that I could use this as a place to answer any of your guys' questions in the future. So if you do ever happen to have a question about any of my training, your training, racing, running shoes, professional running, running with a full-time job, all of the above, the transition from NCAA to running on the roads post-collegiately, feel free to drop a comment on this video and I will absolutely be using it as a discussion point in future videos in this series. But today I wanted to keep the conversation focused on trying to get my speed back after a long block of marathon training. Because I'm sure other people have felt this, whether it's training for a marathon or doing base mileage in the summer before cross country, where you get to a point where you're feeling really, really fit and strong. But then you go to try to run something fast and realize you have absolutely killed all of your fast twitch and you can't run as fast as you used to when you were training for shorter distances. And that's exactly a feeling that I was going through in the beginning and all the way up through, I guess, the end of January. So for those who don't know, let's go back all the way. For those who don't know, I graduated from Johns Hopkins, where I ran collegiately in May of 2024. And basically from that point on, I spent about the summer through about August basically just doing a bunch of threshold work with the occasional strides. And then I spent September through December training for the marathon, and then capping that off by running 2:18:53 at CIM in December. And so I went basically from May through December without pretty much never running under sub 5-minute pace. I had a couple workouts, including like a Michigan workout during my marathon build where I would dip under a little bit. But I really just spent a ton of time getting really good and really efficient at running at or slightly above or below my marathon pace, which is right about 5:20 or 5:18 for my 2:18 time. And so I got really good at running that pace, but even dropping down those 15 seconds per mile to get down to 5-minute pace felt very, very fast. And I basically sat down with my coach after CIM, and we talked through what we need to do basically to set me up to qualify for the Olympic trials in the marathon as soon as the window opens. And I identified that one of the big things that I'm going to have to do to be able to get to a place to reach the next level in the marathon is get to a point where running 5-minute pace doesn't feel fast anymore. Or, running 4:50 pace, 4:40 pace doesn't feel that fast anymore. Because my main barrier to getting better at the marathon and, decreasing my average marathon pace was going to be turnover. And so we structured the entire first half of this year around getting me better at those shorter distances and faster paces. And that leads me to a very exciting thing coming up is that I'm going to be racing a road 8K in 2 weeks. It's going to be my first time racing a distance that I actually have a PR in from college. The only races that I've done since college were marathons and a 2.5 half marathon. So I haven't actually raced anything that I have an official PR in on the shorter side of things. And so I have spent my time since running CIM and taking about a month of very easy running, trying to get my turnover back and see if I'm actually ready to PR in the 8K. And that's the big question, am I ready to do it? And I had a big test at the end of January 22nd, where I ran a 2-mile time trial and a 1-mile time trial back-to-back spaced out after about 10 minutes rest in between. And for those hard efforts, I ended up running 9:28 in the 2-mile. I went 4:35 through the mile and then a 4:53 second mile. And then I ran 4:40 for the 1-mile. And I don't know if that, jumps out to anybody relative to my marathon time or other times. But to me, that was a whole lot slower than I was hoping I would be able to run. And this was coming off of only a couple workouts after CIM, but still, I thought I had retained at least some amount of speed, but no, definitely not. For those who don't know, right, I probably covered it in like one video a long time, so probably nobody knows this. But I have run 14:28 for 5K, which is, I think, right around 4:39 pace, and I have run 8:22 for 3K, which converts to something under 9 minutes for 2 miles. So running 4:44 average, 9:28 was pretty disappointing. And actually, that's about the pace that I'm hoping to run this 8K in a couple of weeks, in only 2 weeks' time. So, this time trial effort was January 22nd, and this 8K I'm running is about March 16th. And so, let's call it 2 months. I basically had to structure 2 months to get myself from, 4:45 pace being an all-out 2-mile effort to being able to hold that through 5 miles steady. And that's been a really tough transition, honestly. And I think the way that I approached it was that I knew it was going to be really hard. So if you are somebody who wasn't a block of marathon training or is getting back into speed work, whether that's, dropping down from the 5K to the 800 or the mile, or, like me, dropping down from the marathon to the 5K, 10K, that initial transition period is absolutely going to be super hard. And you're going to have to just sit there and suffer through probably 2 to 3 weeks of workouts before you start to feel good at those faster paces again, or even, run 2 or 3 workouts where you don't hit pace, and then get to a point where you can do it again. So one of the earlier workouts that I did after that time trial effort was, I think it was the weekend after. It was in the middle of a 14-mile run. I did a 2x2 mile tempo and then 4 800s on the track. And my plan was to run the tempo efforts at about 5:10 pace, and then the track 800s starting at 225 and then going 220, 215, 210. Ended up running the first tempo section around 5:15 average, and then the second one around 5:20s. And to be honest, again, felt like I was running very fast. And then for the 800s on the track, I think I ended up running about 220s for all of them, but kind of just felt like all out efforts. My initial reaction was to walk away from that workout very disappointed. But I really had to take a step back and realize that, it was okay to not hit close to paces on those things. And because I, got the effort in and spent time being really uncomfortable, turning over faster than I'm used to, it was going to make me better. And then fast forward 2 weeks later, a couple workouts later, I had a workout that I actually got a full video on a couple weeks ago where I did a set of 4 800s, 4 600s, 4 400s. That was about 3 weeks after my 2-mile time trial and my 1-mile time trial. And I ended up running 220s for the 800s, right about 4:28 pace for the 600s, and then 63, 64s for all the 400s. So 3 weeks time of just really hurting and getting myself used to those faster paces. And I finally felt like I was in a place where I was making some progress. Now, this past Sunday, I had a long run workout that included 30 minutes of volume broken up. Actually, I guess you can consider it 60. I'll throw the STRAVA up on the screen, but basically it was a lot of volume, and I ended up running probably average somewhere in the low 450s for all of it, finally feeling like I was running at the faster end of my threshold effort as opposed to, closer to a race effort. And so very gratifying to get to a point where I'm feeling comfortable turning over again. And I can confidently say that I'm ready to PR in the 8K. My college cross-country 8K PR is 24:39. And with how I'm feeling right now, I think I can get after it and go out there and try to run, upwards of a minute faster than that. I highlighted a couple key workouts, and something else that I think has had a big effect on me being able to get my speed back was doing some really true all-out hill sprints. I talked about this in my last video as well. But if you are a distance runner, you probably have never actually tried to run all out as hard as you can. And I know that's a weird thing to say, but call it 10 seconds or 100 meters. I do 6x10 second hill sprints every single week. And I try to run those hill sprints literally as hard as I can. And I've been doing this for maybe 4 or 5 weeks now, and it probably took me 2 or 3 weeks to actually learn how to push my body to go that fast. But after a couple weeks of doing it, I've noticed that, it's really started to help, that 440 to 450 pace range feel comfortable and not fast. Even if it's hard, it doesn't feel fast anymore. And so touching on stuff like that true max effort is a really great thing that you can implement if you are somebody who is trying to get your speed back after a long period of long distance training. Another thing that I've spent a lot of time talking about on this channel is shoes. And this kind of goes back to the whole idea of, all right, what do I need to do to make myself a better marathoner? And that is really, take time to focus on my weaknesses. And I think I have pretty good form, but it's not perfect. And one of the things I've been doing, hey Milo, is using shoes to my advantage to try to increase my efficiency. And so I have been putting a ton of miles on this pair of Pegasus 41s and really focusing on how I'm striking my feet when I'm running, really trying to engage the muscles in my feet. I have been doing some workouts and hill sprints in the Adidas Adios 9. It's a non-plated shoe that's really forcing me to work my calves and my feet more. And to be honest, when I'm running shoes like this that don't have the structure of a carbon plate or some really nice foam, I'm not able to run as fast. But I think it's really important at a time of year when I'm not necessarily trying to be 100% race sharp, to sort of, sacrifice my ego a little bit and be okay running slower in workouts if that means I'm working my muscles harder. And again, wearing those types of shoes in those early workouts in early January, early February, kind of felt like crap and I wasn't running that fast. And it took about a month for the tides to finally turn to where, my legs absorbed that strength that they were getting from working out in those shoes. And I was able to start running faster again. I am a big fan of working out in super shoes as you're getting ready for a race. But only really getting ready for race specific stuff. I'm a big believer in rhythm. I spent a lot of time doing marathon pace workouts in my build to CIM in my race shoe of choice. And I think that really helped me out in the long run because my legs got used to running 520 pace in my race shoe, which was the A6 Metaspeed Edge Paris. So I had a really good experience at CIM and felt really good up through about mile 21. And then miles 21 to 26, I absolutely felt like I was dying. But I was trying as hard as I could to stick on the pace. I wasn't really looking at my watch, but when I looked at my watch after the race, I saw that I had maintained running 520 pace on the dot for those last 4 to 5 miles, even though I felt like I was dying. And I really think a big part of that was that my body was so locked in form-wise at running 520 pace in the shoes that I was racing in that even when I got to a point where my body was super tired, it just kind of knew what to do. And so in the last, 3 to 4 weeks, I've started working my super shoes back into my rotation when I'm running at or near my 8K pace for the same reason, because I know I'm going to get to a point in this race where my body's really tired. But if I've been training at pace in the shoe of choice that I'm going to race in, hopefully my body can maintain some of that rhythm even when I'm really tired and, my legs can just know what to do. That's another thing that I think is really important as you're getting ready to race is, practicing the pace you're wanting to race at and getting your body used to it so it knows what to do when you're really tired. I touched on this a little bit in my last video I did as well, where I outlined a full week of my training. But another thing that I truly believe has had a huge impact on me being able to get my speed back is the work that I've been doing in the weight room. I've been spending a lot of time working on my calf strength, foot strength, explosiveness in general. And if you're someone who's trying to get your speed back, that is definitely something that you cannot ignore. I think the moral of the story here is like, if you are somebody who's really trying to reach a new level at any distance, it's really worth it for you to sit down and, look at yourself and go, what am I bad at? And just be totally honest. Or even the easier way to figure out that answer is, what type of training do I not like doing? Because chances are, if you don't like doing it or you're not comfortable doing it, that's probably the kind of training that you need to do the most. So for me, workouts, like I've been talking about, under 5 minute pace scared me. And it's taken me a month or two to get to a point where they don't anymore. But now that I'm finally here, I'm really, really excited about the future where my training can go, because after I come off this 8K, I'm going to have a transition period where I run the Cherry Blossom 10 miler and then really start my half marathon specific training for the Gary Bjorklund half marathon on Grandma's Marathon weekend at the end of June. And I'll be going into that training block in a pace where my goal half marathon pace of 4:53 per mile is not going to feel fast. It might feel hard, but it doesn't feel fast. I can go out and run that pace without feeling like I need to sprint or, put my mind super hard to it. And that's something I'm really excited about. And I'm really glad that I've been taking the time to sort of get out of my comfort zone and get ready for a shorter race to get my body in a place where that half marathon feels achievable. So yeah, super, super excited to go out and race for the first time of the year in 2 weeks and try to attack my first college PR. It should be a really good one. Honestly, I think it's going to be pretty competitive. I know some of the guys from the Bowerman Elite team are going to be there, and I think Craig Nowak, Pace Pirate on Instagram, legend in track and field, I think he's going to be running too. So I'm definitely going to have my work cut out for me if I'm going to go try and get the win. But that's the mentality I'm going to have going into this race. I'm definitely going to try to race for place, but also race in a way that gives me room to get the most out of my body and have fun closing down in the back half. So yeah, honestly, have no idea if that was a coherent conversation at all. We'll see if this even makes it up. If this makes it up on YouTube, that means I thought it was half decent. But yeah, Training Talk episode 1. If you guys have any questions or anything you want me to talk about in future videos, please let me know below. I would love to talk about anything that you guys want to hear. And yeah, as always, thank you everybody for watching this video. I really, really appreciate it, and I will catch you all in the next one. Peace.